Don't worry folks, this is most certainly not a special edition of the Dreadcast called Antrim Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's never happening. Alright, let's put that in the past. Let's put that all in our past. Let's put it behind us, okay? What this is though, is unfortunately a somewhat recovery make good episode to replace the 2 hours that myself and Aidan had recorded earlier today about 1931 Frankenstein. Unfortunately, that recording had simply just decided to say, nope, it's not going to happen. And ended up basically being a silent movie. So, yeah, great, thanks. As upsetting as this is for both of us, as we strive to produce the best content we can and keep a regular schedule for the podcast, all you lovely listeners, I felt it was personally important to at least provide you with an update on where things stand and what's going to happen. To begin with, we do plan to follow through with our discussion on Boris Karloff's 1931 Frankenstein when we venture into part 3 of our Monsters of the Universal series with The Mummy next month in July. After beginning our, hopefully, long-running series on the iconic Universal Studios monsters with Todd Browning and Bela Lugosi's Dracula, we set our sights onto the next installment conveniently of the same year, Frankenstein. Frankly, we both loved it, and from what I can recall, both preferred it. As a film, concept, plot, use of effects, and near non-existence of sound design, they all play a part in creating this horror gem. And actually, horror being the absolute key word here, as Frankenstein was actually the first film to be marketed and promoted as a horror picture. There's a little note for you, which was from the podcast itself. So, once again, apologies to all the fans of the show out there with this little slip up. And we will be briefly recapping and going back through our notes of old Frankie when we do get to part 3 later on in the month of July. For that though, let's run down what's hopefully, fingers crossed, coming out in the month of July and August on the Dreadcast. We'll be kicking off the month with the final part of our look at Fulci's iconic Gates of Hell trilogy, started with the City of the Living Dead, sandwiched with The Beyond, and now we'll be finishing it with House by the Cemetery. We're following that up for the following week with some more 90s greatness in Species. Through to the middle of July, we'll be featuring our first Stephen King epic on the show with Maximum Overdrive. I feel like you have to say it with a bit of oomph. And all its Green Goblin looking truck madness. But speaking of madness, next up will be a little film called Society. This is Aidan's pick. I'm going to leave it there. I am not going to describe it anymore. Just please folks, do go check out Society. Go check it out for yourself. Do not watch it in a public place. I will say that, that's for sure. And we'll come back and we'll have a nice little quiet, chill discussion about it later on in July once we're all done watching it, yeah? We'll all decompress. And finally, as I mentioned before, to cap off the busy month of July, we'll be taking it right back to the Universal Studios, the monsters of Universal Studios, and in theory, a double hitter of Boris Karloff in Frankenstein and The Mummy. Now, there will only be 2 episodes releasing in the month of August within the first 2 weeks, as the show will be taking a short hiatus until the middle of September, where we will be back stronger and spookier than ever. But if we are only going to do 2 episodes before a break, they've got to be bangers. They've got to be bangers. So, we'll be taking a big deep dive look at the original Exorcist, and one of my own personal favourites, Return of the Living Dead. Send more podcast episodes. So folks, that about wraps it up with this catch up and I guess PSA with what's occurring, what's happened, what's going on. Thank you as always for tuning into the podcast and any side project that we do put out there. We greatly appreciate all of you, and there's plenty more left in the tank for this little old podcast, don't you worry. Remember to check us out on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, and YouTube, all by searching The Dreadcast. And the official social media pages on Instagram and Twitter, which is _Dreadcast. And you can also send in your horror questions, trivia, whatever you like, to the mailbag, which is thedreadcastpod@gmail.com. So I believe that's it, folks. Sorry, guys, no Frankenstein episode this week. We'll get back to it in a month's time where you'll get a double hitter of Karloff, Frankenstein and the Mummy. Until next time, folks, stay spooky.